Hey there. So, good morning, NABJ 2025. I am Dr. Pam Perry, and we are here from Byline to Brandline. Our session this morning talking about the power of the pivot, pivoting and transitioning in these times. I want to introduce our panel this morning, our exciting panel. I'll start with this side over here. This is Wynona Redmond, CEO of Win-Win Communications, NABJ PR Hall of Famer, by the way. She got that in Detroit 2018. Yeah, I was there for that. Yes. It was a Pat Tobin Award, yes, which we all love. If anybody can Google Pat Tobin, she was kind of like the legacy in PR. She's passed, and the award was in her honor. So I'm glad to have you here.
Thank you.
Aundrea.
Yeah, Aundrea.
Aundrea.
Yeah.
Okay, so I've been messing that up the whole
okay.
time.
I know, it's okay. The youth throws everybody off.
I know. Aundrea Cline-Thomas. She's a founder of The Rewrite. She's a journalist and career architect. She is here from NYC.
NYC.
Yes, but by way of DC.
Yeah.
Yeah, DC.
Hey,
DMV.
DC.
Okay.
They in the room. Right.
Speaking of DMV, then we have Ashleigh, Demi. She is here. She is actually a media personality and a brand architect. I'm so excited to have her here. Thank you. And the co-founder of this panel is Terry Allen. He told me that he has been here 25 NABJ conventions, 26 NABJ conventions. That is amazing. And so he is the architect behind putting this panel together. So we're going to talk about the power transitions. I'm going to start out with Wynona, okay, because she is the NABJ Hall of Famer here. So you are a bridge builder between culture and corporations. What's your approach to navigating corporate spaces without compromising authenticity?
Well, first of all, I'm very happy to be here. And Terry Allen said 26 NABJ. You know, what's wonderful in a time such as this is that the resiliency that NABJ is celebrating, that's our race. That is our hallmark. And so when I look at the Pat Tobin, who there's so many of our shoulders we stand on. There's so many folks that help where we are today. Ophel Dukes, Pat Tobin. But when you look at what we've learned, we have, you know, to whom much is given, much is required. So this is the 13th year, if the Lord says the same, November 20th, of me starting Win-Win Communications.
Yeah, that is
good. When we turned 10, I said we are going to focus on people and projects that we believe in. And when we're not selling out. You know, I have a chapter in a book, and it's not selling out. You know, we don't want to be sold out without a soul in the work that we do. In times like this, the corporations that I am privileged to work for and serve, they have missions. And so to connect the corporate clients we work with as a bridge to the community, there is common ground, there's common need. Right now, we work for the United Negro College Fund. What's under attack at the federal level? Education. I'm very pleased to be able to work with Elisa Rollins in the Midwest. They have stepped up. So as cuts have been done everywhere, they've stepped up. I am a lottery control board member in Illinois. They created a new ticket. There's $1 million going to the Dream Fund and the United Negro College Fund. We've got to be able to help corporations bridge to the community help. And then corporations want to have good clients and good citizens. Here with JP Morgan Chase, you know, make sure you stop by their booth. But they made a commitment, and they exceeded that commitment. So our goal is to make sure that we translate clearly on both sides. There's a need, there's education, there's financial literacy, there is health. So I will stop there so I don't take up the whole panel. But
This is
it's
good.
really finding the mission and being able to translate it with trusted voices that hear it and understand it. So we do a lot with the church. We do a lot with people that can talk and translate.
That's
So.
it, that is. And the key thing that she said is not selling out. So if you are going to transition from one career to another, there has been a thing where some journalists have said, I'm going to the dark side, right?
The light side,
Yeah.
the right side.
But what
Yeah, the
Wynona
paid
just
side.
said
Paid
is
side.
that
Yeah.
you're working on projects that make a difference. So that makes it the light side. It's not the dark side. If you're gonna maybe go and work, I don't know, I don't put any shade, but like go work for a company that is trying to destroy the black community, like too much alcohol or too much cigarettes, especially cigarettes. Let's just say that. And yeah, you would feel kind of yicky. It's like, oh, I'm promoting these cigarettes, and I know what it does to our community. And they said, well, we're going to put extra money in trying to market to the black community. Okay, like why? And I say that from personal standpoint because at one point in time, someone offered me a big check to do sampling in the black community, and I said no. They were like, but it's a check. I said, but I can't kill my people. So it's like, that's the thing. So thank you. So the other question, when looking back, what moment solidified your decision to pivot into PR, and how has your journalistic foundation to pivot into PR, and how has your journalistic foundation?
Well, it's interesting because I started in PR. I'm president emeritus of the National Black Public Relations Society, and so that was founded by the Pat Tobin. She came out of an NABJ session, and Ron Carter was just saying the other day, we need to just focus back on building a PR group instead of worrying about fighting for voting in the journalist group. So make sure you go look. Make sure you go look. We have started rebranding Black PR Pros, but I actually have been in, Michelle Flowers Welch had me honored in PRSA Chicago last year as a pioneer in PR. So I said, that means I'm still alive and old. And with more than 30
those little keywords, legend, pioneer,
with more than 30 years in public relations. I actually went to the journalism side a little bit, starting Community Chatter on the AM 1390 in Chicago, the top brunch show, and I'm on the iHeart board and on the NBC board. So the journalism side, has merged a lot with the public relations side. We, when you see journalists walking around taking their own photos and posting their own, there's so many cuts that have impacted the journalism community. But so doing Community Chatter on the radio and being that journalist side just bridges the community again with the messages. But I think that in answering your question fully, there is so much that we have to do in looking at still making sure we get the messages out. Still making sure that we bring value. Right now, more than 50% of the business Win-Win Communications does is healthcare. There is mental health issues. We work with Collaborative Bridges to open a facility, a brick and mortar facility in Chicago. There is so much to do with wellness. We have heart disease, we have cancer, we have so many things to attack. So just being able to pivot is still being able to pivot with the journalists, making sure they get the stories out. Nate Rogers in Chicago is on Fox News. He's a caregiver for his mother. We have been getting a message out on caregiving as professionals. We have so much to do. So for me, the priority is making sure that we use every stream available, every journalism stream. Rashonda Hall, Social Pearls, NABJ board member helps get that message out. We've got to use every medium available. And if it's putting the press release out, doing the e-newsletter, or award-winning newsletters we've been doing, and annual reports, it's just making sure that you use all of the skills.
So PR, thank you so much, Wynona. PR is when we say journalistic foundation, basically sometimes we can write a press release and people don't know this. Like, if we could write a press release and it's really, really good, some publications, newspapers will take it and actually run it. So we really provide news for that publication, especially a lot of African American newspapers that don't have journalists on staff. But the press release has to be written in that love language of what a journalist would want to run. So that's where it's kind of like we're the reverse of PR, or the what's the word? It's like there's a journalist that writes a story directly, and then we're providing that story.
My grandmother, passed in the 90s, but Ruby Butler, she said she never really understood what I did as public relations. But she said Nona didn't write it, but Nona was the reason it's in the paper.
That part.
She didn't understand what I did, but PR, I will say, public relations folks, a lot of companies have tried to hire the journalists that wrote for them, and when they hired the journalists, they didn't last in the PR agencies, because there is strategy, there's research, there's techniques. You can capture the message, you can be real on top of the industry, but public relations, you do have to still come with the strategies and all of the measurement tools. That's why it's so important for journalists to work directly together with public relations practitioners.
And also too, PR is overall a spoke in the wheel of marketing. So a lot of times that's where a lot of journalists fall off, because they weren't trained for sales. They weren't necessarily trained for marketing. They already have a brand already built, so they don't have to sell. But when you're your own PR company, I'm my own PR company, not only do you have to do the PR part, the journalism part, but now you got to do the sales part with the client and the marketing and all of that. That's a whole nother conversation for another day. So I think that's a good segue to go to she is a founder of the Rewrite, and we're talking about rewriting our story. So Rewrite is such a timely initiative. What inspired you to launch it, and what does rewriting your story really mean for media professionals today?
Yeah, so I was an on-air reporter for more than 15 years. Started in Macon, Georgia, Charlotte, Nashville, Philly, New York.
Wow.
And so
that's typical for the media.
Yeah, right. I moved around every few years. And then in New York, I mean, I was in the pandemic, epicenter of the pandemic reporting and stuff like that. And so that was just a transformative time, scary time as well. And for a long time, I saw the industry changing. And I started planting seeds. I didn't know how, what would happen, but I never want to be caught flat-footed, right? I didn't think that it would look like this, but I never wanted to be in a point where they would ask me to do something. I'd be like, I don't feel like it. I'm a certain age. I don't want to be at a certain age and say, I don't want to go and be on the corner and report on snow. That's really what I was thinking about. There's going to be a time when I don't feel like reporting on snow anymore, and I want that ability to be like, no, I'm not going to do that. But then I was like, well, if I don't do this, then what am I going to do? And so I was doing little things for a long time. But in 2022, I was like, this is not the only way to tell stories. I could tell stories in a lot of other ways. And a lot of factors were in place. But so I transitioned, I left, and went out on my own. I didn't see a job that I wanted, so I was like, I gotta create my own reality. And so I gave myself 2 years, because contracts are usually 2 or 3 years. And I was like, I don't care what happens. I have to throw the kitchen sink at it. I cannot quit for 2 years. And so now I'm 3 years out, and I hope to never go back. But I created the Rewrite because I did a lot of things that my friends were not doing. I was networking differently. I was going to different conferences, and I had a lot of people, and that's why I was able to transition so well, because I had been doing the work while I was in. But then I still had a learning curve, as you all were just speaking of. I still had a big learning curve when I left. And I was sales, marketing, but just also seeing how other people, because I have my own business now. Sales, marketing, but just also seeing how other people, because I have my own business now. so I see how they're solving problems. I see how they're thinking very differently from how I was trained, and I had never been exposed to that. And so I was interviewing people from the dirt roads to the penthouses, you know, very powerful people. So I had a false sense of exposure. I thought I knew how, and then I was humbling. We're like, girl, you don't know anything. So I created the rewrite because I had built a beautiful network of people who said, girl, let me save you from yourself, and let me help you. And they helped me along the way, and I saw all these layoffs happening, and I was like, what if I could leverage my resources and my network to help journalists transition when they're ready, and create the tools and the mindset and the skill set necessary to make it a softer landing for them. So that's what the rewrite is all about. It's not about leaving journalism, but it's about becoming a magnet to new opportunities, because I say your journalism skills transfer, your journalism mindset does not, and your journalism mindset does not transfer even to journalism.
That is good.
It's completely changing. The game is totally different, and I see so many people, especially I'm an older millennial, Gen Xers especially, that are playing by rules that don't even exist. And so you can't win playing that way. And so I'm trying to bridge the divide and saying, you know, we are the dreamers. We are the ones who made our dreams come true. Journalism was what a lot of us wanted to do from childhood, and most people don't do what they hope to do. So what a shame for the dreamers than to just take any old job. That's not how we're built. That's not how we function. I think your plan A can continue, and just give it room to look different. And so that's what I'm helping people do.
What is your website too? Because I want people, you had a link that
Yeah.
they can get from our QR code
Yes,
here
the
as
QR
well.
code. It's startyourrewrite.com, but
Startyourrewrite.com.
on some of the chairs
Okay.
up here, there's a link there specially for NABJ folks. So what you get are, there's a worksheet, and then also there are videos from experts, because I partner with experts. I'm not here just doing all of that. I'm basically doing what I did in storytelling. You find the experts and you facilitate it. And so you'll get access to expert advice and stuff like that there, along with job boards every single week, and a lot more. So,
Okay.
yes.
Good. So for those who are burned out by traditional news,
Yeah.
but still passionate about storytelling,
Yes.
how do you help them realign their purpose with new opportunities?
Well, first you got to get really clear. And a lot of people are like, I just need to change my resume. To go where?
To do what?
To
Yes,
do what?
Yeah.
And in news, you have a lot of skills. And so you want to say, well, I can do these 15 things. Pick the top 3. You can't maximize everything at the same time.
That's true.
And also, so you get clear about what your skills are. That's the first step. But then it's, where are those skills in demand?
How do you monetize
Because a lot of
those?
people, well, I just want to do this. Well, does anybody need, who needs it?
Right.
And then you got to go to who needs it and be in those rooms. So that means you have to be uncomfortable.
There you go.
You know, you have to be in different spaces. You can't just be with a big hug and warm, and you might not be around all Black people, and you won't be around journalists. I always say, get out of journalism organizations and go to other places. You have to understand how people work, and you have to be able to position your skills for their needs. Ultimately, you have to be a solution to somebody's problem, and you have to know yourself so you can position yourself in
That
that
is
way.
good. That is good. So the main thing is knowing what you want to align your skills with. What company, what industry,
Yeah.
if it's healthcare, if it's fashion. Don't just say, oh, I need to update my resume and I'm just gonna try and find a job and leave the newsroom doing what? And
Yeah.
so really knowing yourself is the first step to that. And someone who is doing that, oh my God, Miss Ashleigh from DMV as well. You've built a bold, unapologetic brand in a crowded space. Everybody's an influencer. What gave you the confidence to center your own voice? And how do you know when it is time to launch your own brand? So give them a little bit of your background.
I was gonna say, thank you for the bow on unapologetic. I feel like that's Roland Martin's phrase, that unapologetic Black man.
Yes.
And it's so funny, I say that because I was on his show. I was doing a lot of co-contributing with him on a national platform. But I've been told no so many times that you have to, that final no, I was like, I gotta do my own thing because I know how authentic my voice is. I know what I can do. I've written for papers, and some papers it was so hard to tell our stories. Like it's one of those things where my first job out of college was at the Washington Post, and it was just, and that was 15 years ago, maybe more, but 2007. I do media, not math, but nevertheless, it was what they're going through now is what they were going through back in 2007. So it was so hard to get my byline. So I said, Mommy, when I get this byline, I'm leaving. Because I just wanted to, build something new. So then I went into radio, news talk radio, because I wanted to be the competitor for WTOP. We all know WTOP. So I was like, well, I heard that CBS Radio was going to launch a station to compete with WTOP. I said, sign me up. When you have those leadership skills and those passions to start something new, I said, I want to go there. Of course, we couldn't compete with that. So the station folded in about 2 years, but we were amazing. But we did something, we learned something, and all of those reporters, whether you came from newspaper or television, it's storytelling, right? Doesn't matter the platform. So I figured, okay, fine, I'll get into that, I'll get into radio, and just learn how to, share your voice without seeing your face. And that was a challenge in itself. So I said, I can just keep learning, but let's just keep telling the story. Doesn't matter the platform. And then from there, I think I pivoted. At this point, I'm like, Mommy, I just need a job. What do I do next? So she said, well, go upstairs. I know CBS Radio has other stations. So I went into urban radio, hip hop, and R&B. But that's why I built the brand, because you meet a lot of different celebrities, Grammy-nominated artists, Pulitzer Prize winners, politicians. You meet so many people, and then I learned to cross-promote. Like I'd be on my own platform, and they'd be on their platform, and let's, collaborating on Instagram wasn't a thing then, but we could share each other's content on my own page or your page. So then people started to really get to know you. And from that point, you get a phone call from Roland and say, hey, come on my show on a national platform. Let's do it. So you continue to just keep building and planting seeds so the building my own voice and brand kind of came naturally as you just keep expanding and trying new outlets, because you're just trying to tell a story. And it's just how you do it.
So just to let you know how I met Ashleigh on a red carpet, and you're a contributor to Fox?
Yes.
So she's on television, so you see she went through print, radio, and television, and now it's like she's a combination of all of it now, doing her own thing. And so what she does is a lot of times she'll go and she'll be like the red carpet correspondent for many events, and I've seen her at many events. I was like, who is this lady? And it was like, oh, she has her own brand. So she's a brand architect and media personality, and that's kind of how you do it.
That's what it is. And somebody told me, they said, Ashley, I don't even see any call letters behind your name, but you on everybody's carpet from Grammys to BET Awards, New York, LA, DC, local people's birthday parties, or an award show. I mean, so the fact that I have my own brand, I can charge what I want.
Yes, that part. That's if you don't get it's like you can have your own microphone, get on the red carpet, and just start interviewing the folks, because you have your own brand. That is so cool. Hey, Neil, how are you? Another NABJ Hall of Famer over there too. As well. Yes. Okay, for the journalist turned brand builder, what's one fearless move you will recommend they make immediately to start owning their own narrative outside the newsroom?
Trademark and copyright everything you do.
Come on, there you go.
I have a term, not gonna be fabulous, like how Wendy say, how you doing?
Yeah.
I have that trademarked, copywritten. I mean, anything that's yours, own it. Your website, anything that has your name on it or has your authentic voice, own it.
Please, yes.
Own it, because then then you can take that, plant that seed, and it continues to grow. And it's gonna take time as you get, you can have clothing or paraphernalia or books or stories, but it's all your voice. So you want to copyright and patent everything that's yours.
Yeah. Because the worst case scenario is that you're saying something all the time, and the next thing you know, you get a cease and desist letter on something that you created.
Yeah.
And I've had that happen to some friends of mine. Like their company names. They got a cease and desist, and they couldn't use their own company name. Their company was 5 years old, and they had to stop and change it. So copyright everything. So Terry Allen, he is the senior VP of Focus Communication, strategist, and the co-creator of this panel. You work both on the ground and in the boardroom. What advice do you have for journalists?
Wow, it's great, and I'm going to try to be as pointed as I can, because there's so much out there. And one thing I want you to understand, and my good friend here will know this: relationships are currency.
Can you speak up a
All right,
little
and
bit so we
so
can
when
hear a
people
little
begin
better?
He
to,
says relationships are currency.
yeah,
Mhm.
relationships are currency, and when you begin to pivot, most journalists I work with, they dump everything. It's not a dump, it's a transition. And so what I tell everybody all the time, if you were a storyteller as a journalist, you're gonna be a great storyteller as a PR person. You don't stop telling the story, but you do more things like control the narrative.
You're more doing strategy
Right.
than just telling the story.
Yeah, and so I did an article last week. I'm still a columnist. I did an article called From Galas to Game Plans.
Oh, nice.
Because in our culture, we are a gala community.
We
We
live
get you
just
to buy a
up
ticket to a
and
gala
Yeah.
and a luncheon at any time, and at the end of the day, we get a scholarship away, take the pictures, but the community doesn't change. So I ask people to game plan. So this is what I say to pivoting people and coming over. You gotta go from stories to strategies. And so control the narrative. You don't just cover the basics in journalism, which is more investigative. I'm gonna find out what's wrong with you. And you go cover who, what, when, where, and why. Well, now you get to how does this impact the community? How can I tell this story to make a change? How do I institutionalize the impact of whatever I'm talking about and whoever I'm serving? And I think that's important because we don't just tell stories. We change communities in PR. We change behavior. We influence buying. We influence partnership. And so I think one of the biggest steps we have to make is to prepare people that you're not leaving behind journalism. You're expanding your toolkit. Or your toolkit goes from being, I am doing this because the editor assigned it to me. Oh no, I'm gonna take this product. I'm gonna take this incident. I'm gonna take this benefit, and I'm gonna tell a story that caused someone to walk up to me and say that changed my life.
That is good, that is good. So as a co-creator, Terry, at this panel, what is your blueprint for a purpose-driven, everybody's talking about that pivot, from media to PR, all
I'm
right?
glad.
And how has community building been your central to your journey?
Well, I'm glad you said that because I think the challenges, and everybody's echoing about to repeat everything you just heard, but we are not, I heard someone say I need to update my resume. You know, it's not updating the resume. We don't need that. We need to have you come over to the side and say, in my work, what problem am I gonna solve? I even ask my clients who come to me, what problem do you solve? They wanna tell me how great they are, who they're connected to. I said, what problem do you solve? When we walk away with you, what have you changed in the community? So pivoting means that you have to do that. You also have to go to that point where you are looking at not just telling the story, but creating an opportunity for an individual who read it to say, I can get involved. You know, and we do that, some of the things we do, fundraising. You know, we tell stories that make people want to donate. We tell stories that make people want to show up and volunteer. And when we, just recently in Texas, we've had floods. And it was not the stories of who we lost, it was the stories of who stood up and in a way that got other people to say, I'm gonna donate this money, I'm gonna drive down to this place, I don't know what I'm gonna do, but I just gotta get in the car and go. And so that's what that pivot's all about, is that you begin to become heartfelt. And the good thing about the pivot is that you make a choice of who you will serve and how you will serve. You can say no. You know, it's not just an assignment from the editor, it is an assignment from your heart. And so I can say, no, I don't want to do that. I can't do this. Just like you, I've got several people want to put vaping. Can you tell my vaping story? No, I cannot. You know, and I have a initiative called City Men Cook. We have been on Father's Day. And we spent 25 years, and people say, oh, that's a great meal. Yeah, it's a real men cook. Yeah, it's a great thing, men cooking meals. What kind of cooks are they? I said, they're not cooks. They're fathers, they're architects, they're lawyers. And they just got recipes that they passed down. But I said, we cook on that day. Throughout that year, we've had 16 weddings, 14 men have reunited with their children. 6 people have built their family tree and reconnected to their parents. We've opened up 15 businesses and raised over $2 million for those businesses to open. But we showcase it by cooking on Father's Day. But we tell our story all the time. So that's why the pivot is important when you cross over to what they call the dark side. It becomes the lucrative side, not just in currency and income, but the relationship currency that you're building with the person that you're telling that story about. It's unmeasurable. It's not a day that goes by that I don't keep tissue in my pocket, because once I see a story and tell a story and hear the person who's impacted back, come back and talk to me, and we're both not in tears, and I'm not hugging it. I built a lifelong trail of relationships that have never ended because I pivoted.
Yeah.
And the common thread of all of you all is that you're storytellers, but the storytellers have to have meaning. And we're at NABJ, Black Journalists, so obviously our community is a Black community, so our part in the world is really telling that story that makes an impact on our community. What you do, and it's almost like this is the lens where we're gonna see. We could be talking to someone, and you could be telling me your story, and then all of a sudden we can see where we can expand it and amplify it further. Because it's like you tell me a story and it's like, oh yeah, that would be good. I can pitch that to whoever else has another platform or put them on a podcast, those kind of things. So really amplifying our stories is really, really key.
I think also we need to understand, and I'm learning from her, I gotta trademark this, but I'm gonna say it anyway because it's being recorded, right?
Yeah.
We have to go from taking these moments that we tell stories about to making enough momentum that it becomes a movement. So when we take moments and give them momentum to make them a movement, then we have pivoted properly. We tell the story. I had to explain my own personal battles. I'm having a battle with cancer. But the men that came to me and says, thank you for talking about it, because now I'm gonna go get tested. Another person says, we've had that occurrence in my family for years, and well, I didn't know what to do. I didn't know who to talk to. And so what that moment and the momentum came from the creative movement was we created safe spaces for men to talk. And men don't talk because we have an invisible ache that we would never tell you about in our mental side. But when I create a safe space as a storyteller, that safe space creates those conversations that change lives. Our city men cook 25 years we're doing it. Our mortality rate has moved from 22% to 2%. So we used to have 8 deaths and then we've only had 1 in 4 years because we talked about our health in safe spaces and made people go to the doctor.
Can I just add something to
Yes.
that really quickly? We are so good, we're trained to tell other people's stories, but when we say, what's your story, we don't know how to do that.
Right.
And so that was a perfect example because you shared your story and it opened the door to so many people. And so I just really want people to walk away with, you cannot forget your story. And because when you don't write your story, you leave the door open for other people's interpretations. You know, you are handing your pen over and letting people write your own story. You have to be proactive because a story is being written whether you participate or not. And so that's the one thing I'm working with journalists in particular. It's like,
Byline to brand line.
Speak up about yourself. You can't leave it, well, oh, the work will speak for itself. Absolutely not. Not now. You have to share what you have to offer. You have to share what your passion is. You have to share your vulnerability. And that's how you find your tribe. It's not about, you know, just trying to make somebody like you. It's about finding, I really just think about building ecosystems, and that's how opportunities are created. And so you want to find your people. But if your mouth is closed, you will not find them.
Good. Oh, I just want to say really quick, a good example of a byline to a brand line. I have 3 people that I really, really respect. One is Roland Martin, we talked about that. A Black Star Network, Joy Reid.
Yes.
After she's on Substack and that kind of thing. And then Don Lemon.
Yes.
So there were 3 people, it was like we knew them, they were working for the organization, but now they're their own brand. And Roland says he's more lucrative doing that than he was before. I don't know how Joy and Don are, but that's one of the things where you wanna tell your own story, you wanna build your own brand. The work does speak for itself, but then when you leave that, or they let you go or whatever, you have a brand that can stand on its own.
Absolutely.
That's really key.
And I was gonna say, to add to that, it's important to have a digital footprint. I meet so many people who say, oh, I'm not.
Good.
A good digital footprint that's not private. I mean, I understand and I get it. You post your kids and your dogs and stuff private, but have a professional page where you can show people. So when people Google it, it'll come up. When it's private, it's hard for the SEO to find it. So if you have a great digital footprint, LinkedIn, Instagram, Substack, YouTube, all these different platforms, and your information is public. Your brand is just building in itself. You don't have to really do the work to build the brand because you're just telling a story on a public platform.
Yeah, that is good.
I didn't trademark my PR definitions of power and resources. people and relationships.
I like that.
And I've always believed that. And as we look at today, Neil Foote is here, and one of the things we started doing, Power PR, but Black PR pros, and absolutely, we've got to represent not only our brands, but our communities. And in this age, I'm very mindful of our families and using the journalism to make sure we've documented our stories. I started DearMeCareCircle.org. We've got many stories of professionals, and as they've transitioned to caregiving. Hermine Hartman, Indigo, her mother lived to 101. I mentioned Nate Rogers, but as we tell our stories, we need to capture our family stories and our family histories and our community giants and their stories. So as we pivot, Don Jackson, this is 40 years celebrating the Stellar Awards. And he went from, I kept saying an event, but he started Stellar TV. Melody Span Cooper started her own station on Roku. So she not only went from radio to TV. So we need to be mindful of just working together with the power of our brands and being multifaceted.
I also want to add to that, and I think it's very, very clear, because you are the story. And if you walk in there trying to cover something or tell something or promote something, and the authenticity of who you are doesn't show up, no one's going to listen to that. They're going to say, you're selling. You're not telling me anything, you're selling. And so you had to bring that personalization there. And I have a question for you, Pam. Now, you're a trusted voice in telling stories. You're a trusted voice with Speakers Magazine. What do you think has been your biggest challenge getting people to tell their story and to getting journalists to become speakers?
Mindset. So you can give people all the tools and you can really give them all the education and give them all the mechanics, but you were saying that it's the mindset. It's really just trying to get them to understand. So I started Speakers Magazine 8 years ago, and it was really to amplify those who had voices or stories or wanted to get on stages. And so my main thing was like, okay, they're not covering us, so I had to create my own. That's why Black Radio was created, Black President. So this was just a trade publication. I can give it to a meeting planner, I can give it to whoever association. These are speakers. You say you can't find Black speakers, well, we got a whole bunch of them, okay? We got thousands of them, and they're in this magazine. And so how I use this is to amplify them. So once they see themselves, really, they may be just starting out, maybe you don't know Omar L. Harris, but once you kind of see it on the cover and I do a big blow up and I kind of help promote them, they see themselves differently, and then other people start to see themselves differently.
Right.
And then they start getting calls, and someone would say, hey, I saw you had a cover of Omar L. Harris. He's talking about what's after the DEI, anti-DEI. I'd like to have him on our show. That's how you really amplify people, to make sure that they understand who everybody is in here, and it's content in here as well. But primarily, it's almost like it's a directory. It's online, but it's a directory of these Black voices. It's unapologetically Black voices. So people say, Speakers Magazine, I'm not a Black speaker. I said, well, there's other magazines for you. This one is for us, okay? So,
Like back in the day, they had a segregated guest, but now we're building our own Black.
we're building our own
Tulsa
ecosystem. Yes.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
My big mama said, which is my column, but she said, once upon a time we were colored, we won because we owned it. And this whole movement we had to be part of the American tapestry has taken us away. And just think, if the Negro Baseball League had never merged or eliminated itself, it'd probably be more profitable than the current MLB, because we own it. So my concern is that we cannot forget our biggest currencies, our relationships. There's Wynona, Rashonda, Karen, Neil. These are people that are my 3 a.m. phone calls.
Yes.
And they answer. And so they help me make sure that I'm staying straight. And the good thing about the people in this room, through our task force, our media related task force, we build these relationships that allow us to be national when we're just sitting in Macon, Georgia. And so those relationships and that currency is most important, that we build these. And we all know, we can tell when you're not authentic. And authenticity is one of the keys. That's why we're having another panel called Unapologetically Black and Authentically PR. Is that we show you how this works, and those relationships and currency is most important. on our call, a Zoom call, we built such strong relationships that we
Yeah.
now interacted with clients.
Terry, could we pause for just 1 second?
Sure.
Just to get, because,
Do you want to take a
has to
picture?
leave.
Oh.
Yeah.
Picture time?
And then we're gonna open the floor for questions
Here we
too,
go, looking
so you
here.
could ask us.
1, 2, 3. Stay right there. We'll do one more. 1, 2, 3. Thank you.
Okay. I
We're,
will get you guys that
we're
picture.
doing our narrative, we're controlling our narrative, taking our pictures.
There you go.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you, thank you.
I have some cards up here. Neil Foot is here. We've been working on Black PR Pros, but thanks, everyone.
And then also too, her information is also here on the QR code as well. So if anyone has any questions of the panel, yes, Tim, young lady.
The young lady who mentioned
Aundrea.
trademarking and copywriting.
Oh, Ashleigh.
Quickly, what's the difference and steps for doing either or both?
So I would say, like she said, if you wanna hire an expert on that.
Okay.
I've reached out to a friend that's a lawyer, and he worked in entertainment law, and he mentioned, this is what you need to do. Right, so
Okay.
it's a few steps that you need, but I typically just went to a lawyer,
Go to a
got some
lawyer,
legal
okay.
advice, absolutely.
Okay.
Yes.
Thank you.
Let me expand on that. I've created 218 businesses.
Okay, and speak up so we can hear.
Let me expand on that. I've created 218 business owners. Copyright is owning your content and what's in your work.
Okay.
Trademark is owning your image and your branding and your name and your
Okay.
slogan.
Okay.
All right, like,
Gotcha.
just do it is a trademark. The Nike logo is a trademark.
Mhm.
The copyright is just do it. It's
Okay.
the wording.
Okay,
So when
gotcha.
you copyright something, you're copyrighting your content, and when you're trademarking, you're doing your images and your slogans.
Thank you.
Yeah, yeah. And it's a really good thing to really do, the difference between putting something that's a trademark and something that is copyrighted. Books and songs are usually always copyrighted,
Copyright,
because
yeah.
especially songs,
Yes.
they can be stolen
Yeah.
a lot.
Yeah.
So that's why your
Yeah.
friend is entertainment,
Yeah.
they
Yeah.
know.
They know.
They're the
Yeah.
ones that really get the most.
And then you may have the little R above the word, but then that's registered. But once you think of it copyright, it turns into a C. But I'm gonna have to hire you. You do
Be
it.
registered though.
Yeah.
Don't just put it there.
And you had a question, what's your name?
Yeah, my name is Maya.
Maya.
I've been in business on and off for about 15 years, and
Mhm.
I recently left an agency that was doing like public affairs work.
Okay.
My overall question right now is like, how do you navigate as you're building just clientele, not kind of being in the box, but like identifying where your clients are, and kind of navigating that space. Like, do you have an expertise? Do you all have like expertise where you're like, I only work with entertainment?
I only work
Or
with
are you all
speakers
more,
and things like
broad?
that,
How do you
yeah.
navigate that?
So the last 15 years, are you with the company now?
I left them and they are a client. So-
They're a client.
That's the way to lead.
I love that, I love that. So let me just answer you this, and then I want you to answer it. What has been the biggest check that you've received in your business that you enjoy getting and you thought like, oh, this is like breathing? What was the biggest check that you got in your business? From what type of company was it?
I enjoy I enjoy the public affairs side where I'm advocating or telling stories of issues that
That's,
affect
and that's where
communities.
you got the biggest check?
Yeah.
So wash, rinse, and repeat that. However you got that check, they all have friends, or they all have, it's an ecosystem of those people. Find out what they're reading, what conventions they go to, what conferences. That is where you go. So many times it's like, well, but if that is where you have found like a success story, now when you can meet their colleague and tell that success story to them and say, I work with this company, these are the results I got, I can do that for you, give me your check.
And I want to take a deeper dive on that success story, because where you get paid mostly is where you should be. But why are you there? What did you solve? Why would they come back to you? So the one thing I want to tell everyone who is going to be an entrepreneurial journalist, entrepreneurial storyteller, have a business plan. Because if you, and this is already copyrighted and trademarked, but if you fail to plan, you plan to fail. So the 218 businesses I put on the street that make more money than me now, they didn't get out the class until they had a business plan. That business plan includes the things that you just mentioned. You've been paid. What were you paid for? How do you get it done? How do you create retention. I don't want to keep this customer, but I need him to give me 5 more. Okay, I need him to tell my story, because when it comes to expansion as a brand and expansion as a person in PR, you got 3 people you need, and they're all called allies. But one's going to champion you when you're not in the room. One's going to sponsor you and give you a project nobody else would give it. And the other one's going to be an ally. They're going to be sitting on the bench when you go to jail. So say, did we have fun? So you got to get your champions, your allies, and your sponsors there and find out who they are, because they're going to expand your brand. It's always great to wake up with a new customer that you didn't even have to prospect, because someone just said, I need you to call you.
Yeah.
So you have to have a business plan. It's most important. It's not in your head, it's written.
I'll add some more feedback. You said, how do you find your audience? I would poll your audience. Like when you're on social media, I do a lot of that on Instagram. Poll your audience and see what they like. See, because the stuff that I thought they loved, they don't. They say, Ashley, we want to see how long it takes you to get ready. We want to go with you to the next event. I'm like, really? Y'all like BTS? They said, we love behind the scenes. So poll your audience and ask them, like, what are they interested in? Secondly, do it aligned. Sometimes people feel like, your question was, how do you figure out if it's something that you want to do? Like, for example, I'm in DC, but I don't want to do politics. So whatever fuels your passion and what your brand aligns with is what you should do. It's not, to me, it's not always about the check. Like, I always turn down political stuff. But with 45, I don't want to talk about him right now. When we get to 2028 or 27, we have somebody new, then I'll get into fun and politics again. But Obama is gone, all that's gone, so I don't need to touch politics.
I think it's looking at your energy in terms of, is where, this is how I had it described to me, is like where everyone's gonna be tired about doing something, but there's a tired that's like energizing, like, man, I just did that, and there's a tired that's like draining, like, you know, like, and so you have to look at the energy. And I also think that we don't leverage LinkedIn enough. You know, it's still less than 5%, I think, is a statistic of people that actually post. If you post once a week, you have 4 times more exposure. And this is why they're like showing posts from like 2 weeks ago. And so it's very an underutilized platform, where like a lot of the other algorithms are very hard now to like break through. LinkedIn still has such an opportunity, and I've had people, like, that's how I've gotten work, I've gotten money literally in my DMs from LinkedIn, just because I share. And so you love doing that work, you should share the wins from that work. You should be the authority on how should people tell their public affairs story, and then you're known for that. Like, what do you want to be known for? It's not just posting for posting's sake, it's being clear about the audience you want to target.
Absolutely.
So it's a both and. So you're talking about going out to people where you don't even know who's watching. I came here last year and a lot of people were like, you know, like, I know who I know here and stuff like that. I wasn't participating in this way. And this time they're like, oh, I saw your stuff. You are on LinkedIn. You did the video clips, right? You know what I mean? So it's just like, oh, it's resonating, but they don't necessarily engage with my account, but they're watching.
And a deeper dive on that is that you can build relationships. My biggest client came because I looked it up on LinkedIn, and it tells me, oh, you connected to these 19 people. So I picked 2 of them, and it says, I'm trying to get your company to do something on responding to the attack against DEI, and I've got a DEI response kit. Would your company be interested? And the first thing they said, how'd you find me?
Yep.
How'd you know that's my role? Could you meet with us? And I ended up doing these workshops, and some of the people in this room have worked with me on that. And I'm doing workshops for Meta, Google, political. And so that was just a conversation, and called safe space conversation on how do I retain myself at work? You know, how do I be my authentic self? How do I show up black and powerful and female and wonderful? And so we created those conversations, but it's only because I went to that page on LinkedIn that says you connected to all these guys. So my pitch went in there. So I think there's so much layers that we have to do, but your 30-second pitch, my first client, Dr. Phil, was because I was on the elevator with Oprah. And she was asking about fried butter in Texas. We're at the State Fair. So my response to her is, I need you to talk to, he's going to expand, and everybody says he sounds like a black grandmother. So can you get him to some black churches? And now here I am, I'm working for the city as an information officer. I didn't understand that the ask of her could get me paid. So that was 20 years ago, but could get me paid, but it led to I got paid more for that work than 3 years working.
Wow.
And so I said, oh, I know where I should be.
So,
Yeah.
yes, Joanne had a question.
Janelle.
Just wanted to make sure that if you do LinkedIn, are you on LinkedIn?
Yeah,
And do you have a LinkedIn newsletter?
I do not.
Just do one once a month at least. That way you can share it and it's always archived there. They won't have to dig through your stories, but do your newsletter, LinkedIn newsletter, do it once a month. And then when you have it, send it out to your email newsletter as well. And that'll grow your LinkedIn.
And then
So,
pin it so it can be your features, under your
Yes.
name in LinkedIn.
yes, pin them. Yep.
Okay, thank you for taking my question. So, love what you all said about LinkedIn. I've kind of transitioned into academia, so definitely gonna have my students, be a part of that process. And
Okay.
so, LinkedIn is it's just phenomenal. The platform is great, and it really kind of cultivates this thought leadership brand,
Yes.
if you want to do that. So I
Yes.
thought that's a really great pivot space, for anyone that's thinking about that. The question that I had was, I am going to be kind of launching a DC campus for the college that I work for. So it's really exciting. They want to have a DC presence. So I have a pilot group of students coming this semester, super excited about that. And we're gonna kind of create a Substack. That's one of the projects that we'll be working
I
on
love Substack.
collectively. It's very smart, it's very on brand for DC. Everyone who's in thought leadership has a Substack, so I thought this would be a really cool space for the students. What my question is kind of building collaboration and camaraderie between the journalism students and the PR students. There's friendly competition, right, as to who impacts the world more, right? And I come from a broadcasting journalism background, so I can be biased. In this advisory role, though, I want to create collaboration. I want everyone to feel like a champion, and I want every student to feel in the room that their role is advancing what we're trying to do. So any thoughts on how we can create that collaboration? How can two very distinct professions kind of work together in creating this Substack, for example? How can we kind of not have this I'm better than you because I know this energy that sometimes I see, friendly, but I have to break it up sometimes. And what are some tips for me as an advisor, as director of the program, to really support students? I really want to set them up for success in the real world, and it's just gonna I don't want them to have side eyes. I don't want them to go into this preconceived notion about what it is. It's good to have pride in your profession, but how can we work better together? And I like some of the things you all shared about how journalists and PR professionals have to work together. So anyway, that's a long answer. But.
That's great. I like what you said. I'm gonna just say a friend of mine, Angelo Henderson, he's a Pulitzer Prize, he passed a few years ago, Pulitzer Prize winning journalist. And I think they have an award named after Angelo, I'm not sure.
Right, here's what it is.
Yeah, and so in PR, he's a journalist, right? And so he always had this snob appeal, like, I'm not gonna blog. I don't wanna blog. That's not real journalism. I'm like, Angelo. And I told him, I said, you can get paid to blog. I mean, if you wanna blog about travel, you can blog about travel and then have Disney pay for it. He said, really? So it's like at a certain point in time, you just have to explain what the opportunities are, because I feel sometimes journalists feel like I'm just so purebred, I'm just this.
Yes, there is that.
And you're less than. And it's like, no, we work together, you still have to tell a story. So one of the main things is to make sure that you explain everybody's role and realize that no one is more than other. It's almost sometimes like print journalists feel like they're better than broadcast. So it's like, yeah, they do.
And as broadcast, we definitely felt we were better than everybody.
And don't get me in radio. Radio, they would come to work in being sweats, no
Right.
no that, and they thought we were crazy. You all just so done up. But I'm at work. So I concur.
And the direct answer to your question is, again, planning. All right, everybody needs to have recognition is good for the soul. So how do you recognize this pillar of people and this pillar of people, and how do you make it collaborate? What's the plan when they're elevated and amplified, that it's fair, it's equitable, and it's numerous, so nobody feels left out. Although they feel like they're experts in the room, their expertise is there. Even with this panel this morning, we made the change. I sent notes to certain experts. I need you to be an expert in the room, and they're here. Because I'm gonna elevate them. So we're out of time, but what I wanted to to advise you is that don't lose the connection that you have here. There's a QR code there to connect with us individually, but we have a reception, media-related reception tonight where we're working, honoring some of the chapters. We're honoring each other, but we need to connect. And we need to understand where our power lies. And as a culture, we have got to collaborate without competition. We've got to be able to coexist without elimination. But we also need to understand that once upon a time we were colored, we were powerful. And then we need to understand that not only, you mentioned Substack. Someone says, let's boycott Amazon. And ship on what? Let's get off Facebook and post on what? So we've got to get to that point where we have our own brands, that we have that alternative, that we amplify ourselves. There's too many gifts in our culture that we need to be able to do that. So I'm inviting you to stay engaged with the media-related task force. I'm inviting you to the reception. And tomorrow, Neil, would you stand for a minute? Tomorrow, tell them about your panel.
Come here, Neil. I want him to get on camera. I'm glad. Okay, yeah, thank you. Come on, Neil.
Yeah,
I want you on camera.
Oh, you want me on camera?
I want you on camera, and I'm gonna leave, and then I'm gonna
support.
So now I'm putting my
Well, I
producer
know
hat on.
anytime I'm with Terry Allen, it's possible. It's possible. Be ready.
Yes,
Always be ready.
Yes.
Always be ready. Now tomorrow, this is part 2, right? We did this last year, unapologetically black in PR. Talking about our journey as black PR professionals and the good, bad, and ugly. Last year, we peeled back the Band-Aid. We ripped it off. We told the real story. That's what we're going to do tomorrow, because I think that's something that's really been important to as Wynona talked about Black PR Pros, the National Black Public Relations Society, that has been kind of an extension of what we're doing here at NABJ, going back to Pat Tobin's days. And really, to your point, what I used to do as an educator with PR and journalism students, I was teaching on the journalism side, but I reached out to my PR professors, and we ended up doing joint workshops.
Okay.
Where we kind of set up mock press conferences where the PR people had to prepare someone as a CEO executive, and then the students had to write a story about that. Because the point is, as a PR person, if you don't understand how a journalist works, we're lost, right? We are absolutely lost, because then we're calling up a journalist talking about stuff, and they're like, I don't even write about that. You didn't do your homework, right? So, and worse yet, you don't even know how to write, right? I was grateful that we had PR professionals at our university who worked closely with us to redo the intro media class, because she was so annoyed that her advanced level PR students couldn't write a decent press release.
Oh my God.
Didn't know what a who was from a what to a why to what a passive tense was to a comma to a supporting clause, right? So anyway, all to come tomorrow. It's gonna be a good conversation. Thank you all.
All righty, thank you, Neil. Thank you all, panel. All righty, take care.
All right, thank you.